You win, you're in. You lose, you're going to the Gator Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to the Gator Bowl.
Dude, you have to call him out like that. Joining us here on Radio Row, it's Jacob Hester, former LSU running back, doing media now, Sirius XM, yeah?
Yeah, Sirius XM. I actually do 6 hours a day, local show in Louisiana, and then 3 hours in the afternoon on
Please tell me you have
Sirius
co-hosts
XM.
for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Because as someone who does 3 hours solo every day, the idea of doing 6, that's a no-fly zone.
Oh, yeah. Like, when I go solo, like when somebody's on vacation, I'm like, this is good for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to do it like 5 days a week.
No, you do.
Yeah.
You trust me, you don't. You don't.
So during the Super Bowl, I host Super Bowl radio for Sirius XM.
Yeah.
That is 3 hours solo for like the full week. I'm like, this is the maximum that I can do.
You guys have such a good setup. Like this setup here, we're at Army Navy Radio Row for those just tuning in. So the setup here is fantastic. They're doing a great job. Everyone with USAA, everyone with Army Navy, everyone's great. What you guys have every year, Sirius XM, Super Bowl Radio Row, as someone who's been to a couple of those myself, like, you're not really doing solo radio, man.
That's
like,
fair. We have a lot of guests.
You guys have the car wash. You guys
That
have the
is
big
true.
setup. It's a little different than locked in a radio studio by yourself.
Yeah, that is fair because you got to get like the thing about doing solo, and you know this. I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
is like you have to create your own energy too. You're right.
Yeah.
So like having people come through, yes, that is much better than sitting there and answering your own questions.
Yes.
Because when you do solo, that's what
Yeah.
you do. You ask it and then you answer it.
Right. No, you get it. You get it. All right. So let's dive in. For those who don't know, Jacob, running back at LSU back in the day, played in the NFL, now doing the media thing. So you obviously doing the local stuff in Louisiana and being an alum, like you saw Jayden Daniels before. We saw Jayden Daniels.
Right.
When was the first time you saw Jayden Daniels and were like, dang, this kid's different?
I mean, really from the first game he played against Florida State. I mean, they didn't have a lot of success that day, and the success that they did have, it was all Jayden, just like creating on his own. He was great his first year. I know a lot of people like look at that year, like he was okay. No, he was great. Like that offense had deficiencies, and he cleaned a lot of that up. And then obviously his second year, one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a college quarterback, but he got much better. Like as good as he was his first year,
yeah.
Like he worked hard to be even better his second year, and his processing went up, and like the work that he put in with the VR system at LSU, like he was in the building before anybody. And a lot of people say that, but they're lying. He wasn't lying. Like he was there all the time, and so he already had the talent, but he worked hard to make himself the player that he is right now.
What was something that was different about that? Or maybe, I don't know if there's any like Burrow, good analogies. And it was funny because during the draft process, I would push back when people were like, oh, it could be like Burrow. And I'm like, look, Joe threw 60 and 6. Jayden was incredible. It was 40 and 4 and like 1,000 yards rushing the whole deal. Like Joe's just a different level of processor, and like the way Jayden goes about his business can definitely be effective, but it's different. But you were there. Was there something about the way that Joe went about his business behind the scenes, even if they're different quarterbacks, that you saw Jayden doing? You're like, oh, that might be something.
Well, I mean, he was a pro like his last year at LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a pro mindset. And, for the most part, he's done with school already. He's taken just the bare minimum classes to be eligible. And so he was really a pro, and that's what he was. And so he was at the facility like we were when we were in the NFL, right? It's not like, because typically in college, you got 20-hour rules. 20-hour rules.
Yeah.
And you're there when you have to be there. And maybe you try to do a little something, but you got so much other stuff to do that you can't really get it done like you can the professional level. But he could because of his schedule, because he had already graduated. And he treated it, I think, like a rookie year in the NFL. And, you talk about processing, and I know Joe's like elite. Jayden's processing is the thing that he does as well as anybody, but doesn't get talked about enough.
No,
like
I agree.
His processing is elite. Like I've been around. Like I played with Peyton Manning. I played with Phillip Rivers. I played with some Matt Flynn in college. I played with some really good quarterbacks. He's got elite processing, and I think that's why he's having so much success his rookie year.
So for me in the draft process, watching him, I was like, this is what I remember the first time I watched just like the every snap cut up TV. It's all TV copy at that point because it's early in the process. The all 22 hasn't leaked to YouTube, but unfortunately, like that's how you got to do it.
Yeah.
But like watching the TV cut up of every throw, I'm like, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But he's also got these 2 first-round receivers on the outside. Like, how much is there to process? Oh, look, Malik Neighbors is open again. Like, I could do that processing.
Yeah.
The throw, we'll leave that to Jayden.
Yeah.
But like, that's not that hard. Was there something that you saw at LSU that gave you confidence that it would translate, knowing that, like, okay, the test was a lot easier in college than it's going to be in the pros? Because watching him, by like week 3, I was like, oh man, it translated. Like this kid's going to be something. Was there something you saw earlier at LSU that gave you the confidence that it would?
Really, you just go back and so you watch the all 22, or I like watching the end zone copy. That's my favorite way to watch football, and so I had access to that at LSU. And you'll go back and you'll see the coverages. Okay, well, I mean, it's quarters here, he's making the right read. It's quarter halves here, he's making the right read.
Right.
He consistently made the right read. So sure, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who are 1 and 2 in rookies, I think, like in receiving yards or something like that for receivers. I know Brian Bowers is there. So, yeah, they're special, and they were open, but also he made the right decision.
Right.
That makes sense.
He picked the right open.
Yeah, so
like,
he knew where to go with the football.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you can watch it, and sure, the separation might be greater because those guys were so good than it would be with others, but he put the ball where it had to be and in the right spot off the right coverage. And so, like, that went a long way with me. And, I mean, like, he consistently did that at LSU. Like, you go back and you watch that tape, like, him reading the coverage and making a wrong decision, like, you can count on one hand in a full season how many times he did that. So, like, for me, yes, they were always open. They were really good, but he also made the right decision.
Yeah, it's also why, like, the more I watched him and I got my hands on some of the All-22 and all that kind of stuff, the more I liked him. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's the guy. And sure enough, he has been. Jacob Hester is with us here on the Hoffman Show, Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We stream on YouTube as well at the Team 980. Jacob, again, if you don't know, played running back in the league. Specifically, you were a fullback.
Yeah.
So the cockles of your physical running game heart must really light up when you watch the Commanders and you watch Brian Robinson. What have you seen from that side of the Commanders' offense that has impressed you this season?
Really, like, so everybody talked about Caleb Williams and his weapons with the Bears, and I remember in the process being like, okay, I think Jayden's going to go 2. I don't think he's going to go 1. The weapons there are pretty damn good. Like, when you start looking at who they had at receiver, Ertz, I still think he had something left. It's a good veteran presence to have there, but having B-Rob and having Eckler in the backfield, like, that was like the best of both worlds because Austin Eckler is going to be able to pass protect, catch the football, make those kind of plays, and then B-Rob can just worry about going downhill. Yeah. And just being a guy that is the physical runner, kind of leans on you, imposes his will on you. So really, when you look at the makeup of the offense, it's really kind of been a perfect storm of hitting and checking every single box. And I wish he wouldn't have got hurt, in the middle portion of the year. But, if he –
I think we saw that decline. Like,
it did. And Eckler tried to do his best. At this point in his career, Austin Eckler's not a 3-down back. He can give you a lot of value. And unfortunately, he's gone through his injuries as well. Right. But I think you saw, like, okay, you don't want to have to use him on all 3 downs. But when they're healthy, I mean, they can really stress out a defense because, like, what do you stop? What do you take away? And then there's the added, if we have it all taken away, Jayden can pull it down and run for 60 yards. Right. So I really like the makeup and the DNA of the offense when they are fully healthy. And it's why, like, if they get into the postseason, they're going to be that team that nobody's going to want to play. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Just the ability – I think that's the thing with Jayden, too, is, like, the ability to turn nothing into something. Yeah. These dead plays that should be -5, and it's like, oh, cool, it was +10. That's going to help your offense. Makes Kliff Kingsbury look like a genius. Speaking of Kliff, you told me right before you sat down here, you have a Kliff story. Yeah, I do. Okay, so, like, I never played for Kliff or whatever, but on my visit to Texas Tech, my 2 hosts, every time you go on an official visit, you have a host, you have 2 hosts sometimes in different places. They were Kliff Kingsbury and Wes Welker. Oh, that was my 2 hosts. And the night that I went is a night they upset, like, top 5 Texas when Chris Sims. Crabtree game?
No. Before then. I'm old. Okay. It was even before then. Chris Sims was the quarterback for Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Texas was top 5. Texas Tech beats them in Lubbock. Celebrations were had. I'll leave it at that. But, dude, are you kidding me? I'm a high school kid, and my hosts are Kliff Kingsbury, the quarterback, and Wes Welker, the star receiver. We had a night in Lubbock. It was fun.
I imagine.
Mike Leach wanted me to play inside receiver, so I didn't end up a Red Raider. But the official visit was well worth the trip out to West Texas.
Well, things have worked out well for you. But did you ever think about what it would have been like to be a receiver for the Pirate?
Oh, yeah,
like how much time have you spent on that in your life?
Because so the high school I went to, Evangel Christian, we were 5 wide before anybody was 5 wide, and we had we had quarterbacks that signed with everybody, and so I played a lot of inside receiver in high school, and I'm like, maybe just maybe I could have been something there, but I was not near as quick as Wes Welker, so probably would have ended there in Lubbock.
How did you wind up switching to fullback then?
LSU's like, so I kind of played a little bit of running back too, and LSU's like, hey, we have Joe Adai's the first-round pick. He's our running back. Would you be interested in playing fullback? I'm like, look, I'll do whatever I got to do to get on the field. So I got to LSU at 205 in June. By August 30th that year, I was 235. And so they put 30
Was it
pounds
just like
on me.
a bunch of gumbo, or
Just eating all the food, like whatever it was, eating all of it.
Yeah.
Because back then, like, nutrition wasn't like it is now, where they know everything. It was like, hey, go eat some Bluebell ice cream and eat some etouffee and gumbo and just gain 30 pounds. And
that's a dream, man.
Yeah, oh, it was great.
Like
it was great.
that's got. Because obviously the Commanders are in New Orleans this weekend. And,
Yeah.
look, being here at Army Navy Radio Row is great. If they could tell me that you'd go switch and be down in New Orleans, I'd probably be there.
Yeah.
I'd probably be eating.
So I flew from New Orleans to this event, and there was already a ton of Commander fans right there in the airport. So, I mean, you wouldn't be alone.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've been lucky enough back when I was on the beat to do a couple trips down there. It's always a good time. Last but not least, with Jacob Hester here, let's talk a little college ball as well.
Yeah.
That's your day job now. Year one of the college football playoff with the 12 teams. How do you think it, like, there's obviously some controversy of who's in, who's out. That's going to, if there were 64 teams, like, I don't know, the basketball
The 65th,
tournament.
yeah.
The 65th is always, or now it's the 69th because it's 68 teams.
Yeah.
But overall, how do you think it sits right now, and is this somewhere you think we sit for a while?
I loved it, by the way. I think it brought competitive football, interesting football well into November. There was teams that made the 12-team playoff that we wouldn't have given a second thought because we'd have been, they're out. Let's only worry about them. There was fan bases that were engaged, like even ones that didn't make it. BYU, Colorado, because if they won, they would have continued on. Heck, even LSU had 3 losses. They would have beat Florida. They'd have been in the SEC championship game.
Who knows?
Like, I mean, it's just fan bases that are engaged. Ole Miss, until the very end, they had 3 losses. And so we wouldn't have gotten that in a 14 playoff. It just doesn't happen, right? You could guess like 1st of November. Maybe you got one surprise, but you kind of can put 3 teams in. So with 12-team playoff, it's a lot of unknown, which is great, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to live here for a little bit. Let's get comfortable here. Let's see what it looks like before we move on to 14, 16. We saw the 14 playoff. We realized, okay, we want more. We gave that a decade or whatever we gave it, and then we, pivoted off that. Let's stay here for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see what it looks like, because I think it really heightened the regular season. A lot of people were worried it was going to devalue it. I think it did the complete opposite. Let's continue on. Let's get 5 years, 6 years of sample size before we move up.
Yeah, I've always been an 8 guy just because I feel like that, like, if you have 4, Team 5 could legitimately win a national title. And that's a team that shouldn't be left out of the playoffs.
Right.
At 12, you're obviously not having that problem with Team 13, theoretically. Who knows? We could see someone make a run. That's good. But the magic of college football is that these games are so important, that a game in October could kind of knock you out. You feel like, because of the engagement, like that trade-off of the October game that's worth everything versus more fan bases in at the end, you thought that trade was worth it?
I did. And I was with you. I was 8 at first.
Yeah.
But we watched the Big 12 championship game. Winners in, loser goes to a random bowl.
Yeah.
We saw the Mountain West game. Winners in, loser goes to some random bowl. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that was high stakes.
Yeah.
Clemson, you win, you're in. You lose, you're going to the Gator Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, no disrespect to the Gator Bowl.
Dude, you have to call them out like that.
I mean,
all due respect.
I think
hey.
Clemson ends up in the Gator Bowl a lot.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's called the Gator Bowl anymore. I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't know.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's high stakes.
Yeah.
And SMU, like, you felt like you probably had to win. When you lost, you had to sweat it out. Like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved watching that. I mean, it really felt like the first round of the playoff for all of those teams involved,
That's a great way to put it.
And so I enjoyed watching those conference championship games. Now, like with Georgia and Texas, you lost a little bit of that because both teams knew they were in.
Right.
But I think more times than not, you'll get a situation where you'll have a little bit more pressure.
Got it. Jacob Hester, everybody, former LSU running back, doing media now with Sirius XM. When can people check out your show?
Yeah, I'm off campus every single day, 3 to 6 Eastern time on channel 84.
There you go. So check that out there. Jacob, this was great. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
All right, we'll be back more from Radio Row here in Arlington next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app.